Game day's here, I can hear the crowd. Turn on the lights, hands are cranked up and loud. Red or blue, we wear it proud. Yeah, we love our teams in this border town. Chiefs and Royals, boom a zoo. Rock chalk, Jayhawk, KU. Hear that drum pounding in your feet. Yeah, you're marching to the beat of KC.
What is going on, YouTube? What is going on, Kansas City? And what is going on, everybody? And welcome to the Beat of KC. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lucas Murphy, and I have the absolute privilege to bring you yet again Zach Johnson. He does a ton over at 810. He is the host of Locked On Royals, and he is down at spring training right now, so this is a fantastic opportunity. Jack, I can't thank you enough for coming on. How's everything going, man?
Hey, it's going good, and always happy to jump on with you, Lucas. I know I have a great time, as always, talking Royals with you, and what better time to hop on as we're down here, getting the content, getting the interviews, and yeah, very excited to be kicking off Royals baseball, if you will.
Heck yeah. Well, I like to break the ice with anybody who comes on, so my first question is kind of a personal one to you.
All right.
Obviously, it's a different time zone from where we're at here in Kansas or Missouri, the Midwest. You're in Arizona. So you get up early. What is the go-to breakfast routine? Are you rolling through continental breakfast? Are you a coffee guy? What's the routine before you head to spring training?
So I'm an energy drink guy. I've
Okay.
just never gotten into coffee. If I do have coffee, I'm loading it up with all kinds of crap, so I just know it's not that great for me. Not saying energy drinks are that much better for me. I like the Celsiuses and the Alanis out there. I like the kind of the soda flavor. We haven't had the continental breakfast just yet. It looks like it's good options, but we're getting up each and every day around 6 a.m. And I've always been one of those people that when it's that early, I don't want to eat. I don't really like to eat that early. So if I am feeling peckish or whatever, we'll run by the gas station and grab a protein bar and have an energy drink. But once I get going, once Easton and I, who's been doing a phenomenal job down here as well, setting up everything for me, couldn't be able to do this without him doing all this as well. We just get energy drinks and get protein bars, and we can pretty much make it about 8 or 9 hours before the next meal.
Heck yeah, man. And I could tell you've done this before because you literally just segued perfectly for this next question. So obviously from the first day down there, you got down there to the current day of today. What is the energy been like, you know, with the organization, really with kind of the spring training vibe?
Yeah, there's a lot of energy out there. Every guy that we've talked to has been very open about that, where, you know, you can have that typical best shape of my life talk. Oh, this year's different. We're gunning for the division. We're gunning for a World Series run. Let's be honest. Every organization in baseball says that. Whether you're the Colorado Rockies or the Los Angeles Dodgers, you're going to have that optimism in spring training. What I've loved this year is there's a quiet confidence about them. They don't need to tell anybody that they believe in themselves, that they think last year was an absolute disappointment and an absolute fluke. When I talked with Vinny Pasquantino, one of my favorite things that he said was, oh, yeah, you finished with a winning record, but who cares? We didn't make the postseason. That's not anything to hang your hat on. That's not anything we feel proud of. We feel incredibly disappointed that we missed the postseason. And when you talk to all these guys, you get that same feeling of last year, they don't take really much at all out of it. They don't take any positives from that season because it wasn't their ultimate goal. And every time you try to ask the question of, you know, how did you feel your season went? How do you think that it all transpired for you? Every single one of them opens up with, well, you know, we didn't reach our ultimate goal. It's always we. Our team didn't reach our ultimate goal. Therefore, I don't really care about my individual stats. And these are guys that are playing for contracts. They're, you know, trying to win arbitration cases. And to hear that, I can say in my third year down here, it's different than the previous two. The first year was, we're confident because no one believes in us. The second year was, we're confident because we did make the postseason. This year is like, you don't need to ask if we're confident. We are, and we expect to be back in October this year.
For sure, man. That's exciting to hear because I feel like I kind of made a hype video today because it feels like that 14 kind of 15 vibe a little bit. Like more so like 14 going into 15, where they're like, man, we made it to that point, we tasted that, and now we know what it takes. And it's almost like last year was more that letdown, and it's like, we know we can do this. And you kind of just sense that from hearing people talk, players talk. I mean, even Q's kind of putting off a little bit of that vibe. Like it's really kind of exciting as a Royals fan. So I'm super pumped about it. And that really kind of segues to this next one. We've seen some former players. George Brett's always down there in spring training, but what was nice to see was Mike Moustakas out there. At least I saw, I don't know if it was today, but Mike Moustakas is out there. Really, what is the vibe from those guys around this team? And, as former players, how do you think they feel about this 2026 team?
I would say they are excited about it just as much as the fans are. What's so great about a lot of guys from those teams is that they don't have that arrogance of, well, nobody's going to be as good as our team, right? We won the World Series. We had 2 American League pennants. Who are you to get excited about this group of guys that has only won one postseason series? I mean, we went from not making the playoffs to sweeping our way to the World Series. It's not that vibe from them. These are guys that love being back. They love being a part of the organization. To see Moose today was truly a really cool experience. He was one of, if not my favorite guys from those 14 and 15 runs. He's talking with Jack Caglione, who seemed to be as one of the young and up-and-coming stars of this team. George Brett's always been back for stuff like this, and it shows how much they care about the organization. And it's a cool thing to see when you have a small market team like the Royals. I would imagine if you're a former Yankee, you're a former Dodger, it's easy to come back. I mean, there's so much history of winning, and it pains me to say that because I don't root for those teams. But when you have those quote-unquote alumni returns, yeah, I'm proud to come back and watch Dodgers camp or Yankees camp because of what the expectations are. These guys coming back, whether the Royals were projected to be a playoff team or not, that doesn't change their mentality about them. They love the organization through and through. They love the people that helped them along the way. And we all know what special stuff they did for this entire city.
Yeah, man, it was special, and it was really cool to see Moustakas out there. I think just because, towards the end of his career, he kind of knew the trade was going to come, and he, went and did his thing. But just for him to retire, come back, and really kind of contribute back to this is significant, I think, and you nailed it perfectly. Now, obviously, you've interviewed Vinny Pasquantino. We saw the Carter Jensen interview, and you got Jonathan India today. And we'll talk about those specifically in a bit. And you really had the opportunity to ask other players questions through, obviously, interviewing and stuff. Are you getting a sense that this team is healthy and could truly compete for the AL Central this year?
Yeah, and it should be expected. I mean, the AL Central is almost as wide open as any other division in baseball, and it's really been that way for a long time. There has not been a run of dominance from a team since maybe the early 2010 Tigers, certainly the late 2010 Guardians and Indians at the time. I would say that if they can get off to a hot start, they can get off on the right foot, there's no reason they can't compete for the division title the entire year. There might be an opportunity where they can lead this division by a couple of games. And even if they fall behind, Lucas, in June and July, look what the Guardians did last year. The Guardians were 10 games out of first place late in the year, late in the second half, and the Tigers just collapsed. I'm not sure that one team in this division is suited for complete control from the end of March to the end of September. There's just not enough depth on these teams. There's not enough star power across the Central that would lead them to win this division by 8 or 9 games.
For sure. Yeah, and I think that they have a good possibility of doing that. They just have to, we're going to talk about Vinny's interview, and that just hyped me up. But I think him really talking about his April and really kind of how he got off to a slow start. I think if they can come out the gate firing, and I think that really kind of will lead to a few of these next questions. I think obviously not a ton of Royals fans get the opportunity to go to spring training. And so I think, we're kind of living through you as you post things on social media, as you post stuff for Locked On. But I guess what's something fans wouldn't see on social media that's really stood out to you so far?
I would say the camaraderie of this group. And there's a lot of new guys that are in this clubhouse, and whether they be minor league deal guys or they're guys like Isaac Collins and Nick Mears, it's amazing how quick a clubhouse can come together. And some of the stuff that stood out to me in the clubhouse, Mitch Spence was acquired last week, and today he's talking with Cole Reagans at his locker, and they're going over what they're going to do today. And then you look over and you see Hector Neris, who's on a minor league deal. He's playing cards with Carlos Estevez and Salvador Perez and Steven Cruz. And some of these guys are longtime vets where they've been around multiple clubhouses before. They've already earned that level of respect. What makes a clubhouse great, though, is no matter who you are, we have a common goal. Whether you're going to be starting this year in AA, High A, AAA, or Kansas City, our goal is to win. Our goal is to win championships. And not often in the Royals' existence has that been the goal, the focus. Because there were teams that, yeah, you could say we're competing for championships. Hey, everybody's 0-0. But deep down, I'm sure they could tell this is not a team that's going to compete for the World Series. And this team has that confidence of, we get the ball rolling, we get hot at the right time, there's nothing that can stop us. And I know a lot of teams can have that confidence. As I said, spring training is a fresh start. Everybody's 0-0. They do have a collection of talent, though, they haven't had in quite some time. They've got tremendous upside. They're as healthy as they've been in a long, long time. And if it can stay that way by the end of March, the ceiling can be the limit for these guys.
For sure. Yeah, that's got me hyped up. And I think that really, you hit on a few players that I think will lead into this next question. So a decent number of Royals players will be heading to their respective teams for the World Baseball Classic. I think I'd figured it was 5 of the 9 starting position players. I know 2 of our starting pitchers, and then obviously our closer, they're going to be going to their respective countries to represent the WBC. How do you feel this will really help this big league ball club? Because me personally, I feel like they're getting amped up a little bit quicker than they maybe would in spring training. And then I guess my follow-up question to that will be, do you think they'll be able to bring that energy back to help kind of elevate heading into a season that really kind of that the first couple games or series are going to be kind of tough? I mean, do you think that this is really going to be beneficial?
I would say so. I mean, you get great competition, you get great environments where in Surprise and in Peoria and at Camelback Ranch, you're going to be seeing a lot of crowds that are there certainly to watch baseball, but also it's a zero pressure environment. You're there to get reps. You're there to get work in. Those starters are going to go out there and throw 20 to 30 pitches. Even in spring training, you can do the old, we're pulling this guy this inning because he's been roughed up. Now we're going to send him back out there in the third. I mean, there is zero pressure. And you really don't put too much into the numbers of spring training. Where in the World Baseball Classic, I'm not saying you take away all the numbers from it, because what we love to do in spring training is we pump up the great numbers and we don't acknowledge the bad numbers, right? It all depends on your narrative and what you're trying to do, right? If you really want somebody to make the team, what are you going to look at? Oh, the great numbers. He's looking really good. If it's a guy you love and they're not playing well, it doesn't matter at spring training. Where in the World Baseball Classic, those guys are trying to win. Those guys are representing their country. And if you watch the tournament as long as a lot of people have, for some, that's the most amped up you'll see them all season long. Because there's a different energy about it when you are representing your country. And it's not always the case with Team USA. This year, I think you're going to see a lot of fiery passion from a lot of these guys. But it's more so of Team DR. It's more so of Team Japan and Team Puerto Rico and Team Venezuela. The reason I say that is they came over from those countries to play Major League Baseball. Where they grew up, those teams were their Kansas City Royals. Those teams were the teams that they went to the ballpark and watched, and that's why it means so much to them. Now, I'm not saying they disregard what happens in the regular season. That's still the most important thing to them, because that's where their money's made and that's where they've made a life of their own. But the tournament is that opportunity to go, I am here competing against the best in the world. I am here representing Venezuela. I'm here representing the Dominican Republic. I'm here representing the United States of America, and I want to win this thing. And it's evenly matched kind of across the board when you look at the top teams out there. And the guys that are going to be over there, it's great competition before the regular season.
For sure, man. I'm so hyped for the WBC. It's going to be an incredible, just to kind of get you prepared for the regular season. It's just going to be an incredible watch. I really think that they do a good job of really kind of when they set it up. I'm so amped. The starting rotation. Now heading into this year, obviously a lot of our starting pitchers were dealing with injuries heading into the offseason. You know, the starting rotation's roughly 7 deep. And I feel it is set unless injuries do occur. What does the starting 5 look like right now? And those other 2 will either go to the bullpen or will they headline the AAA staff? What are you thinking about how the rotation's looking, and who do you think might either go to AAA or maybe back into the bullpen?
Yeah, I'd say that the rotation right now is pretty set unless there would be another trade or there would be an injury. It'll be Cole Reagans as the 1, it'll be Lugo as the 2, Bubic or Cameron as the 3, Walker as the 4, and then Bubic or Cameron as the 5. The reason I say that of Walker being a 4 is you don't want to have 3 straight days with lefties on the mound. You don't want to go from Cameron to Bubic to Reagans. You want to have some variety there. And that's why, those 5 are pretty set at this point. And that leaves Bergert and Kolek on the outside looking in. They've got minor league options. And for that reason, I could see them starting the year in Omaha just so they can stay stretched out in case they need to make a couple of starts early on in the year.
For sure. And obviously, speaking of bullpen, I know you talked a little bit about Alex Lang and your kind of day one with Locked On, and obviously a few others. We saw a little bit of Aaron Sanchez and a few other guys. I feel this could be a strength of the Kansas City Royals. Not necessarily with those 2 specifically, but I feel like the way our bullpen has really shaped up, Matt Strom comes over in a trade. We know what guys are kind of returning with Urseg, Estevez. Like this is really kind of looking to be pretty decent. In just your opinion, how have the relief pitchers looked, and has anyone that isn't more of the premier name that we're all used to stood out to you?
For the bullpen's sake right now, it's good that everybody appears to be healthy going into camp. And that's the most important thing. Nobody's having this really slow buildup. Nobody's behind schedule at this point. And I would say other than maybe a spot or 2, the bullpen, like the rotation, is ironed out. There's just not many spots to win there, and that's a good thing. That's something you want to have going into spring training. And really, when you think about it, bench spots for the offense and a spot or 2 in the bullpen are the only up for grabs opportunities. And when you have that many spots set, you're just evaluating the 24th, 25th, and 26th man on your roster. Some teams out there are having position battles. Position battles are a terrible thing to have in spring training. It's fun for conversation pieces. It's fun for debate topics. You don't want to have that, though. And I go back to when I covered football in college. I covered college football. Every time you got to fall camp, you'd have these coaches trying to talk up a quarterback battle of, these guys are neck and neck, and it's been great all off season to see them challenging each other. And every media member knew, well, this is a terrible thing, because even though that's great competition, what's the likelihood both these guys are starters? That's not the case. What's likely is that your number 1 is not much different than your number 2. And so for the Royals to go into this spring training, looking at their starting 9, pretty much knowing it's set and not having some position battle in the outfield or at second base, and even the bullpen battle, it's for a long relief spot. It's not for the closer spot. It's not for the setup spot. That is a great situation to be in going into camp. It can always change when you have injuries and you have guys that are underperforming, but they are mostly set at this point. I know, to answer your other part of the question of somebody that stood out, that's not a premier guy, I have him locked into the bullpen, but it was Nick Mears today. I didn't catch the entirety of his live bullpen. The glove was really popping, though. He was facing Michael Garcia, Bobby Witt Jr., and I want to say John Rave and Salvador Perez. So he was getting 3 out of the 4 guys that were everyday starters. And some of them got him. Sometimes he did struggle with command, but the pure stuff I thought was impressive. His fastball had more giddy up to it than I really thought going into camp. I thought that he sat around 94, 95, and kind of sounded like he was 96, 97 today.
Man, that's exciting to hear, especially him coming over in a trade. and really kind of needing that. That's one of the biggest things, being able to transition from the starting pitcher to the bullpen. And we're used to that when you had, Herrera, Davis, and all those guys. I mean, it just, what you can get when you have a lockdown bullpen. And so I'm going to transition a little bit. And this one, man, I'm going to kind of specifically talk about your interviews. And I really want to hype that up. Jack, I need to ask you, after interviewing Vinny Pasquantino, did you avoid all brick walls and wish the season started tomorrow? Because I think he is a real individual, talking about his personal successes and obviously his failures, and as well as team goals, successes, and failures. And again, anybody watching this video, if you have not went and watched these interviews, I highly, highly recommend. I mean, Jack's putting in the effort, the time for you all. This is incredible. So make sure you go to Locked On Royals or his X account and check out those interviews. But just from your perspective, what does Vinny Pasquantino truly mean to this team?
I mean, he's the vocal leader. Every team needs one. We know that Bobby Witt Jr. is the best player on this team, one of the best players in all of baseball. And it's great that Vinny Pasquantino doesn't fight for that spot. He doesn't try to go in there and say, well, I'm the best guy on this team. I hit 30 plus home runs. He didn't. I drove in over 100. He didn't. And that's great to have from a leader. They all have that common goal, as we were alluding back to. And he's such a great conversationalist. He's very charismatic. He's the guy you want to talk to when you go into the clubhouse after a big win or after a crushing loss, because he's going to tell you how it is. And you can see how all of the players gravitate toward him. He kind of has that Eric Hosmer feel to him, and they were not the same type of leader. But back in 14 and 15, you could kind of see that he was that vocal guy. Mike Moustakas was as well, so I don't want to disregard that. But you need that in your clubhouse. Bobby's a tremendous talent. He's just not as vocal as Vinny is. He's not the guy that's going to give you the soundbite. He's not the guy that's going to get super fired up and amped up. That's what Vinny Pasquantino's for, and the team loves him for that. Clearly, the coaching staff loves him, and that's why he's become a fan favorite. But to be a fan favorite, you also have to perform well, so it doesn't hurt that he's been coming off of a great season last year offensively.
Oh, man, after listening to that interview, I literally, cliche, I wanted to run through a wall, man. I was so hyped up for listening to him talk, and yeah, it was just exciting. Now, obviously, transitioning to Carter Jensen, and I've told you before, I've had the privilege of interviewing him, and I think he's obviously kind of adapted well to Major League Baseball and what the expectations are just from like interviewing and things like that. But Carter is everything you really hope for in a prospect. And he just happens to be that local product too of Kansas City. So he understands, 14 and 15. He understands what the Kansas City Chiefs mean to Kansas City. Like he understands all that. Can you speak to the player you interviewed? Like really like who he is? And are you getting a sense that we might have 2026 AL Rookie of the Year on this team?
Yeah, and first and foremost, it wouldn't have been possible setting that up if it wasn't for Easton, who's down here with me, and he works and does great, phenomenal work for Sports Radio 810. He's good buddies with Carter, so we already kind of knew a little bit about him before the interviews, thanks to him, and he's a mature guy for his age. He's a motivated guy. You can tell how professional he is, and it's easy to say that. Most guys at his age are going to be a bit shy. Most guys are going to be overwhelmed by the moment, and I don't get that from him. He really does look like that guy who could be an everyday starter at the big league level, whether he's going to be a designated hitter or a catcher. And the sky's the limit for him. I mean, you can tell how much the organization loves him. And it's the third year he's been in big league camp, and this is his first one he's going into the year as an expected big league.
For sure. And just to kind of caveat off that, you obviously in your interview kind of talked to him about Salvador Perez. Can you just kind of maybe elaborate a little more on what Salvador Perez, the future Hall of Famer, truly means to Carter Jensen?
I mean, he's an icon. And as we talked about Vinny being a vocal leader, Salvador Perez is that same guy. And everybody in that clubhouse mentions him a time or two, whether they're a pitcher or they're a position player, what he means to them. And they understand that he's the guy who's seen a World Series championship in Kansas City. He's the guy who's never left. He's the guy that, next to Bobby Witt Jr., has the most jersey sales in the city. He's the guy that gets the loudest crowd pop during the starting introductions, and you're wearing his T-shirt, and he's got tons more just like it. And what's so awesome for Carter is he grew up being one of those fans, and now he gets to go into a year where he's his patching partner. I mean, I can't imagine how cool that is for him.
Yeah, man, I could only imagine just like you said, growing up watching him and now you're basically like just following him everywhere, doing what he does, learning his ability to become that Hall of Famer. It's just incredible. I can only imagine the lessons he's learned that we're just not even aware of, and it's incredible. You know, obviously you interviewed Jonathan India, and I think one of the things that I caught from that, obviously, is his new hairstyle. But I think that kind of plays into a little bit more of really helped with your interview. You know, the new hair, Jonathan India, it sounded like he was trying to be a different player last year because of, it sounded like to me a little bit of the park. And just from my kind of observation, to fit into the new club, like he got traded from the Reds to the Royals, and it sounded like to me he just wanted to fit in and make a statement. You know, with that interview, how are you feeling about India heading into 2026? Because there were a lot of fans out there that really were kind of hesitant on giving him that deal that he got this year. And it, you know, obviously, even you and I talked early on, you know, we wanted to make that trade, whether that was for that left fielder or potentially like a Brendan Donovan who could play second in left field. We obviously didn't make that happen, but how's India kind of feeling about going into 2026?
He seems to be somebody that is very locked in. And he came off a year where he was just so battered and bruised by a variety of injuries. And for the Royals fan base perspective, this was somebody that you traded a former first-round pick in Brady Singer for, somebody that was a very valuable starter on your playoff team in 2024. And he was seen as this next great leadoff hitter. He was top 5 in walk rate before he came over. He was a former rookie of the year, and you know the Reds loved him as a clubhouse guy. So it was such a no-brainer move, and it seemed that both sides got better. But then when you talk up, and I definitely fell victim to it, I talked Jonathan India up a lot. I thought with as poor as the leadoff spot was for the Royals in 24, this will be such a refreshing change. And it wasn't. It just wasn't. And that's not, we don't need to sugarcoat anything. Jonathan India was not good in 2025, and he knows that. But it also doesn't mean that he's not somebody that can turn around and have a great 2026, get back to what he was before coming to Kansas City. And a big part of that is staying healthy. And I'd imagine if you took out all of those fluke injuries he had, he would have closer numbers to what he had prior to coming to Kansas City.
For sure. It does sense. He's very calm and collected. You could tell in that interview, he's very easy spoken. And I'm kind of hoping that he, like you said, he just wants to kind of get back to having fun. And so, you know, this is a perfect clubhouse for that, is just to kind of generate that fun vibe. And I think he's going to be poised to have a pretty solid 26. That's just my opinion. Now, obviously, we're kind of getting to the back end of this interview, so I got a few more questions, and then I want to finish this out with a rapid fire final 4 questions for you. So who is the most impressive player that really isn't getting attention right now for you?
I would say, I mean, the 2 days in, some of the guys haven't had the chance to take the field just yet. Somebody that popped to me late in the afternoon today was Mason Black, came over from the Giants in the offseason. He gives more of a unique arm angle. It's not quite like John Schreiber. It's not quite like A.J. Causey, who was dealt for Mitch Spence. But he's got these long arms. He's a taller build at around 6'4", 6'5", and his fastball has really good horizontal run. And that horizontal run is going to be intriguing to guys like Brian Sweeney, Mike McFerrin, and then, of course, Mitch Stetter in the bullpen. And if he has a good spring, he's got that outside chance of getting into the bullpen. Because if he has tremendous numbers and good whiff numbers and strikeout numbers in camp, they're going to have a tough decision to make. Now, he does have minor league options, I believe, so they could stash him in Omaha and be just fine with it. But if he wins a job in camp, it wouldn't really surprise me that much.
For sure. Yeah, and that's one I was kind of interested to see if you'd mention, and so it's good to kind of hear from him. Now, obviously, there are non-roster invites that are participating in spring training. Is there anyone that looks like a legit candidate? I saw today, I believe it was Blake Mitchell was just crushing the baseball in the cage on the field. Is there anybody like, you know, non-roster invite that just looks legit that, you know, hey, like they got some potential?
Yeah, I mean, Blake's got tremendous potential. he's still got a ways to go. I would love to see him just start the year in Double-A and stay there as long as he can. If he forces the Royals' hand, he forces the Royals' hand. But he needs to have a full, extended look in Double-A before we can start having that conversation of, what does the future look like for him? Somebody that could make the roster, Eli Morgan. I had a chance to talk with him today. He came over from Chicago. He was DFA'd. The Royals gave him a minor league deal. He worked with Brian Sweeney before. He told me that's one of the main reasons why he picked Kansas City was because of Brian Sweeney. And his stuff looked great today. He had a live BP against a couple of guys like Jack Caglione, Cameron Meisner, who's another minor league deal guy. I want to say that even faced Carter Jensen at one point. It might have been Tyler Tolbert, actually, though. I know those are pretty big distinctions, but I know that Carter came last. I would say Eli's been pretty impressive early on. He's another guy that has to pitch well in camp if he has a shot at making the roster.
For sure. That's exciting. I guess my final question for this group is, other than Jonathan India's haircut, has there been any other major adjustments you've seen, whether it's batting stance, hand placement, maybe different pitching angles from any of these guys?
Yeah, one of my weird fixations in camp is going around from field to field and just seeing, looking for a different arm slot, a different stance. And after about 30 minutes yesterday, I zoned in on Michael Massey. And from where I could stand and where I was watching him, it did look slightly different. It looks like his hands are a little bit more out in front as opposed to, right above his shoulder, his back left shoulder. And he had a great at bat against, I want to say, Eric Sarantola, where he had worked the count and then just took an off-speed pitch and gapped one, two-hopped the wall in right center field, and the swing looked comfortable, the swing looked smooth. And from what Matt Quatraro said today, he appears to be really healthy, and that's the most positive thing for Massey as camp begins.
For sure. I know some people identified it looked like Jack might have moved his hands just a little bit. I'm just curious, obviously. The one that I'm kind of keying in on was Massey. I kind of noticed it has a little sense of an Alex Gordon type of feel to it. And so, it's interesting to kind of see that adjustment. And then, like you said, he two-hopped the wall, which to me, like you said, the biggest thing is just health with Massey. We saw what he was capable of doing in the postseason where, Juan Soto laid out and Massey's rounding first and just had Kauffman Stadium at a next level. So to see Massey maybe get back to that form and contribute would be incredible. Now we're going to finish out with this rapid fire final 4 questions. So I like to make them fun.
All right.
Go-to restaurant that is not in Kansas City. And obviously everybody's like, go to In-N-Out, Jack. So we got to eliminate In-N-Out.
Okay.
What is the go-to restaurant right now that's not In-N-Out?
So down here in Surprise, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so East and I will be going there tomorrow, but it's a place called The Cookout. And Guy Fieri went there a couple years back. So many TVs out there, great beer selection, and really good food. So that's kind of become a staple. That one night down here, we always pick a spot to go to, and it's usually The Cookout. And I know tomorrow there's a lot of great local basketball games going on, so we'll be there for a couple hours.
For sure. That kind of feeds me to my next question. What do you do in your free time, if you have any?
Yeah, we don't have a ton of it. What I would say is, you go out to eat. There's a pool and a hot tub right outside this hotel, so spend some time down there. Drink some beer. That certainly passes the time down there. I know I've had more than a few after we've been done today. I mean, it's 75 degrees. You don't have that right now in Kansas City. Not to sound like a boring guy, but it's usually eating food and drinking beer and watching basketball.
You're speaking my language, Jack, and obviously we're getting a little bit warmer. It's like 66 today, but man, I tell you, the wind is insane. It's just been next level. Next question is a player you think that might make the roster that maybe isn't slotted in many people's predictions.
It would be a reliever, that's for sure. I'm not sure that there's a position player that's going to really surprise anybody that makes the roster. I'll stick to my prediction of a Mason Black, a Mitch Spence, or Eli Morgan. I'd say those 3 would be the ones that maybe aren't the projections that have a decent chance.
Okay. And then my final question is, if the season started tomorrow, are they a playoff team?
I'm going to say yes. It is going to be really, really close. And what it all hinges on is the health of the starting rotation. And offensively, it's Jack Caglione and Carter Jensen. Those are the two things I'm looking for. If the rotation stays healthy and Jack and Carter league average bats, they will be a playoff team. And if they're much better than that, they can win the American League Central. As I said, it's wide open, and if those things fall in line, their chances are high.
Man, that's awesome. Jack, I appreciate the time, man. As always, I truly do, especially taking out of time of your busy schedule down there. It means so much to me and obviously the channel. Guys, make sure you go over and check out Jack. Go to his Twitter. I'll let him obviously plug that, and go to Locked On and check out all the interviews and everything he's talking about. It's incredible work, and it needs to be noted. It just is awesome. So, Jack, where can the people find you and get all your content?
Yeah, you can just follow me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. So that's JOHNYJ. And you can always follow Locked On Royals on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. Very easy to find.
Heck yeah, man. Well, I appreciate it as always. And we end every video the exact same way. Have a good day.